Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam. Welcome back to the 60's Project, where myself and Russell Howell take a look at every movie from the year 1960. Russell, how are you?
Doing good. Obviously didn't get to as many as we wanted to, or I wanted to, or we all wanted to. But looking forward to talking about this one. A really solid film. Um, a long running film. It was definitely a heavy hitter. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I was actually really surprised. But looking forward to talking about Elmer Gantry.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in just a second. But if you're watching the YouTube version, please leave a like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, we'd appreciate the 5 stars. That would be very nice of you to do that. But as Russell alluded to, we just have the one movie this time around. But man, what a heavy hitter it is. It is Elmer Gantry.
Elmer Gantry is coming!
Elmer Gantry is an all-American boy. He's interested in money, sex, and religion.
This was based on the book of the same name written by Sinclair Lewis. It was directed by Richard Brooks, primarily known as a screenwriter. He wrote adaptations for books such as Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and it starred Burt Lancaster, Gene Simmons, and Shirley Jones, among others. It tells the story of a man named Elmer Gantry, played by Burt Lancaster, who is pretty much like the poster child for a traveling salesman. Like, he drinks, he smokes, he lies, he cheats, he steals. Like Eddie Guerrero with none of the likes of. However,
Viva la Raza.
However, he stumbles across an evangelist played by Gene Simmons, who is a part of a traveling ministry, and through his philandering, he becomes part of the ministry and falls into the good graces of the mission, minus one or two of the churchgoers who are like, yeah, he's not who he says he is. And the movie chronicles the rise of his popularity from being traveling salesman to basically taking over this church and becoming the face of it for a little bit. So this is what I did know about this going in is that Burt Lancaster was in it, obviously, but this was one of the movies that got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards that ended up losing to The Apartment. And I'm not going to go so far as to say that The Apartment was a bad choice, because The Apartment still is very good. However, I gotta say that this is still a very worthy contender for Best Picture. I enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, 100%. We should note that what was I going to say? Burt Lancaster won Best Actor for the film, obviously deservingly so. But yeah, definitely very thought provoking. Very there's a lot of character growth too, which I appreciate, because we see him at the beginning. We're like, yeah, this guy's like a sleazebag, but he does kind of transform, and you really kind of do feel like he's actually growing in faith, and it's not just a gimmick. You really believe it. I mean, at least that's how I interpret it. But yeah, he's fantastic in the film.
One thing that I personally enjoyed was, to your point, Elmer Gantry starts in one place and then just becomes more faithful as the movie goes on. However, Gene Simmons' character, I'm not talking about the Kiss singer. I'm talking about someone else named Gene Simmons. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Detroit Rock City.
I was made for loving you, but she starts out in one place, and she almost kind of leans into the, I don't want to say darker side of it, but in a way kind of like the more, like, I guess, delusional side. It's hard to say, but by the end, she's like doing faith healings, and she's like doing the stuff you would see like the croc, like, mega church people do. And so it's a weird evolution.
Yeah.
It's like Elmer Gantry starts out as the bad guy, but slowly, unironically, starts to believe. And then Sharon Falconer is a legitimate believer, but then believes so much to where she's like almost feels like she's communicating with the man upstairs herself. So
Yeah.
that whole journey I thought was just very well done.
Yeah, and like what you said, what a crazy, just a crazy film to release out in the 1960s. You know what I mean? To go and express, you know what I mean? To deep like a deep dive down into the whole, not Catholicism, but religion and theology and all that stuff. It is kind of crazy how we do see Elmer Gantry's character like. He is a very unlikable character at the beginning of the film. You know what I mean? He does your drinking. He does, whoring around with women. He does all that stuff, and then I really think that throughout the film, I think it is his faith that really kind of like saves him almost.
I don't want to spoil too much of what happens at the end, even though the movie's over 60 years old. So it is like, what are we even doing here? But still, in the sense of, I just want to, if you do watch the movie, I want you all to go in as fresh as possible. But basically, to your point, Elmer's faith saves him. That is quite literally true, because he goes through it. He becomes this big deal, like rallying against prohibition, and then a scandal happens, and then he gets proven like innocent by it, and then like he gains all that redemption that he seeks, but at a cost. And I'll just leave it at that.
I do like the whole scandal. I like how that comes comes full circle and it becomes right. I do like that. I appreciate that. They kind of allude to like God's watching out for him or something like that, or basically like chalk it up for for God or for bleeding. This film I think would pair nicely with The Eyes of Tammy Faye, just because
Yes.
obviously faith, but I feel like honestly, just like if you were to pick like an older film and a current film that have the same type of boundaries or like where we're at, I think that would be a perfect pairing. Just for like theology, religion, and all of that. But yeah, it is quite crazy how their characters almost swap places in this film. Obviously, like at the beginning, you like the sister. She's very pure. She's very innocent. She's very But you had Elmer. Burt Lancaster is just fantastic in this film. Anytime he talks, he's so animated, like you said, with your name, his face. He is just so commanding when he's on the screen. And that says a lot. Like the 2 hours and 20 minutes he's on the screen, you always stop and listen to what he has to say. He's just, you would drink the Kool-Aid is basically how that would probably be, he has that likability to him. He has that relatability to him. He knows how to talk to others. He doesn't care what others think of him. And I see, why he won the Oscar for Best Actor. Definitely well deserving. But this film, like I said, would definitely pair nicely, I think, with The Eyes of Tammy Faye for sure.
I want to touch on that in just a second, but my only exposure really to Burt Lancaster up to this point was Field of Dreams, obviously, where he was Archibald Moonlight Graham. And then a very underrated submarine movie where he starred alongside Clark Gable called Run Silent, Run Deep. It's one of my dad's all-time favorites, and I watch it with him at least once a year. It's a very good movie. I do highly recommend it. But the point I'm trying to get at is that, to your point, Lancaster was awesome. Yeah. Gene Simmons, there she is again, is great too. A couple years before this, she was actually in the musical Guys and Dolls, where she also played a minister of sorts. So maybe she just had like the look of, she can play someone holy. She'll pull it off.
Yeah. Hey, Sydney Sweeney played a nun too or whatever. So, it happens.
That's a good point. Yeah. Another name I wanted to bring up is Dean Jagger, who plays the jaded reporter who is like, Elmer Gantry's not all he's cracked up to be. Yeah. There's a part of his character that I just didn't like, where everything goes down revolving the scandal and he like hits a woman. I won't say that in context, but like it's uncomfortable to watch. And like not even in like the, oh, like it's bad to hit women. It's naturally just, of course, incredibly awful to hit a woman. Like it's just there's no redeeming in that whatsoever. But there, like, I get what they were trying to go for, but at the same time, it was just genuinely very uncomfortable to watch. And of the parts of this movie that have aged the worst, that's the one for me.
And especially because it sounds like, and I'm not making fun of the situation, obviously, but it just reminds me of like comic book slaps, like Batman and stuff like that. You know, if we're trying to listen, if I'm trying to like make the situation, obviously very serious topic, very serious conversation. But anyway, but what I'm saying is the sound effects and stuff like that kind of make it not as obviously it's serious, but it kind of like it ages it. You know what I'm saying? It definitely ages it. But yeah, to what you're saying, yeah, there's no a redeemable quality for that, and I guess kind of it would probably be comparable to like the Walter Matthau being drunk at the birthday party when we were talking about that in the 2000s with oh my Lord, hanging it up.
Oh,
yeah. I would put that like right up there. There's some uncomfortable watches. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff, and obviously you have too. So it takes a lot to really make me kind of go uncomfortable. But like you said, his character, yeah, it gets really crazy near the like last, I would say 45 minutes of this movie, like real crazy. I feel like it definitely like veers off pretty hard. You know what I mean?
There are scenes of uncomfortability for sure, where that one scene, but then there's one that was by design that I was like, okay, this is actually like really effective. It's again revolving the scandal, and Elmer gets like he basically like gets stuff thrown at him by his parishioners. It's so uncomfortable to watch, and Elmer's not a character to really root for necessarily, but in that moment I was like, geez, like, can we like just give him a break? Someone literally spits in his face, like literally the side of his face, and not even like from a distance, like just like right up close, like just right up close. There's no missing that one.
No, and kind of what you said, and then he just sits there and he just takes it. But I think because of the fact that like maybe he's thinking that it was kind of like his just desserts for his past, his ways of the past. I think maybe in turning that new leaf of faith and stuff like that, you're going to get people that react harshly like that to you. And obviously with the scandal, those aha moments where, oh, you're not as pure as you say you are. See, look at this. See what he does. He's not as pure as he says he is. You know what I mean? And then obviously have that scandal come back full circle and make it right, which I appreciate that. But, I thought Lancaster's character near the end of the back end of the film where he like really changes, where you see that character growth. I think it's very easy to kind of root for him,
Me personally, on my score, I'm going to give this an amazing grade. It's one of the best movies we've covered, excuse me. It's way too late for me. But
no, you're good.
We've covered for this project so far. Didn't expect
100%.
much from it. Turned out to be like way better than I could have ever anticipated. And to your point about The Eyes of Tammy Faye, this movie deserves a remake. Not necessarily maybe the Elmer Gantry story, but maybe something similar to that, I think. I mean,
definitely.
Maybe like something like, say, The Righteous Gemstones, but treated seriously. I don't know, something like that. But I feel like there's enough meat on the bone where you could do someone like gets into the televangelist game, like maybe say the mid to late 80s where it was really taking off with like Jimmy Swaggart and Robert Tilton and all those guys.
Billy Graham and those guys,
Then like maybe see the error of his ways, or maybe something like, say, like actually unironically believes, and then the people around him like get more extreme. I don't know. I'm very much spitballing here. The point is that like you could do something like that, and I think get some kind of Oscar love.
Oh, for sure. Look at Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood. He was like almost like a minister-esque when he was in that small, congregation that he had in There Will Be Blood. I thought he was fantastic. Obviously I think he got an Oscar nomination he got an Oscar nomination for it. Kind of what you're saying.
My boy.
Like bring him out of retirement. He'd be a perfect priest. You could absolutely have him be a televangelist 100%. I think Daniel Day-Lewis would kill it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of Elmer Gantry if you have seen it? And I think you should. Let us know in the comments. We would love to read what you have to say. And Russell, it's a privilege to do this with you every week. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yes. Finally, Chance and I are getting together on Saturday to record Honora. So that will be done. And I won't have to talk about Honora anymore because I'm tired of it dragging along all this time. But anyway, you guys can find us Notorious by Chance on Facebook. We'll be putting polls up and getting that back and rocking and rolling here. And be on the lookout for Honora. Like I said, we'll be talking about that film. Also, Notorious by Chance on YouTube and at NBC Podcast, TikTok, and X.
Yeah, all those links are down below. Go give them a subscribe over there. As far as this channel, next week we will be returning back to the year 2000. We will be picking up where we left off with that, and my list decided to just not come up on me.
I got you.
Which is very sad.
I got you.
We are finally going to cover Leprechaun in the Hood.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to that one.
And then I, for some reason, my letterbox just quit on me.
It's High Fidelity and Price of Glory we got on tap.
Thank you very much for that. And we will be having a special guest on to talk about High Fidelity, so stay tuned for that. But for Russell, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all next week. Y'all take care.